see how difficult it is to reach goals if you keep signaling to your brain that you're not able to do a damn thing. This is totally counterproductive. It's like you're trying to go full speed, and then you take your foot off the pedal. You're sabotaging yourself by thinking these negative thoughts. You have a loser's mentality. Do you feel like you constantly criticize yourself, like you constantly put yourself down, like you're always carrying out some kind of war inside your head, like you're your own biggest enemy? Do you feel like that? I used to be like this, and I thought that that would be healthy. I thought it's good to be harsh with myself. It's good to criticize myself, because this is how I learn, right? This is how I grow. Actually, this kept me stuck in a loser's mentality, and this actually sabotaged my success. And today I'm going to teach you how to not be in this loser's mentality and how to change your thoughts. So, I'm not telling you that all self-criticism is bad. All negative thoughts are bad. No, we're not on some toxic positivity kind of narrative here. We're not doing that. Sometimes you do something wrong, right? Sometimes you make a mistake, and then it's fine to criticize yourself, to think to yourself, I did this wrong and I should do it differently next time. Absolutely no problem with this. What becomes a problem is when you constantly think negatively about yourself, and when you start to generalize whenever something negative happens. There's a specific kind of thought pattern that I call loser's mentality. And those are thoughts that are black and white, very general. So you generalize this one negative thing over all contexts of your life. So you might make a mistake in one situation. For example, you make a mistake at work. You are a waitress and a glass falls down or something. And then you start to immediately think to yourself, wow, how dumb. I am just not capable. I'm such a bad waitress, and in general, every job that I ever tried, I always fail. What is wrong with me? I should not be doing this. If these cascades sound familiar to you, this is negative thinking, and this is toxic negative thinking. This is nothing that's going to bring you forward in any formal way. This is extremely unproductive. And what these thoughts do is they are not just thoughts. This is what you have to realize. Thoughts literally change the brain chemistry you have. And changed brain chemistry leads to changed behavior. Let me tell you how this works. So, when you have a negative thought like that, when you have this negative thought spiral, for example, in this waitress situation, then these self-critical thoughts that you're thinking to yourself, they send a signal to your brain. They say, I'm not capable, I am less than the others, I am wrong. And this thought alone activates stress circuits in your brain. So cortisol is released. So you start to feel anxious, your heart starts to race. And what also happens, and this is I think the more important part, is your serotonin actually goes down. Serotonin is a lot of the times referred to as the happy chemical, but it's not just that. It signals where we are at in the social hierarchy in the world. So high serotonin levels are usually associated with higher social status, with more safety, more security. And what happens when you have these negative thoughts is your serotonin goes down. So literally, your brain adapts to your thinking. You tell yourself, I'm a loser, I'm a shit waitress, I can't do a job. I can't even do such a simple job. And what happens is your brain starts to adapt. You think this, and your brain is like, okay, I'm a loser, let me downregulate the serotonin. And what happens is this puts you at risk of developing anxiety, developing depression. This actually worsens your sleep. It goes along with a bunch of real physical consequences. So your negative thinking is not just thinking. It's literally changes your body. And you see how this is extremely unproductive. Not only does it not help you in this situation, the glass, it's broken. The glass is broken. And you're also not thinking about how you can make it better the next time, right? If you think about how you're a horrible fuck up, how you're such a loser, you're not fixing the situation. What would be a productive thing to think would be to say, okay, that was stupid. I'm going to get a mop. I'm going to pick this up. What happened immediately before the event? How did I hold the glass? What caused this? What can I do better next time? This would be a productive way to think. But what a lot of us do is we start this negative thought spiral, this black and white thinking, this generalizing, and this is what keeps us stuck in a losers mentality and literally changes our body, changes our brain chemicals to make us more of a loser. And here is where you have to intervene. You should not be at war with yourself in your own brain. The world is dangerous enough. The world is scary enough. We're all trying to somehow navigate through life, and life can be overwhelming. People can be cruel. It's difficult being a human being. Pain and suffering are inevitable sometimes, and you shouldn't make it even harder for yourself by constantly fighting a war within your own brain, constantly putting yourself down. Do you see how difficult it is to reach goals if you keep signaling to your brain that you're not able to do a damn thing? This is totally counterproductive. It's like you're trying to go full speed, and then you take your foot off the pedal. You're sabotaging yourself by thinking these negative thoughts. So this is all bad, right? And you probably think to yourself, wow, well, I learned to think this way. How do I change this? Am I just stuck with this negative brain, with this horrible place that is my brain? No, you're not. Here comes the positive thing, okay? We as humans have the unique ability to think about ourselves. So there's self as subject, which is your subjective self living your everyday life, thinking thoughts, not really doing anything else. And then there's self as object. This is where you can take the perspective of a spectator watching you think, watching you do stuff, and thinking about that. So you can think about your thinking. Get what I mean? This is what differentiates us from animals, essentially. We can think about our own thinking, about our own existence. We have a representation of ourselves. And this gives you the power to change your thoughts and to change this loser's mentality into something more positive. What should you be aiming for? How can you change these negative thoughts, and what should you be thinking instead? The goal is not to not criticize yourself at all. In that situation, the restaurant situation where you drop the glass, what you should be thinking instead is, oh shit, I made a mistake here. That's not good. It's also not horrible. What did I do wrong? How can I fix it? This is what a healthy person does. This is what a winner does. They learn, they see the mistake. They don't identify with the mistake because that will make them a loser, right? They just say, okay, I made this mistake, not because I'm a bad person, not because I'm a fuck up, but because I dropped this glass, because I did something wrong with my hand. Okay, how can I fix this next time? This is what a winner does. And this is what you should be aiming for. It should not be the goal to not criticize yourself at all, because that would be narcissistic. If you would drop the glass and then just keep walking and be like, oh, I don't care, I'm amazing. That's not what you want to do. Think about you were having a fight in your relationship, and then and your partner tells you things that you did wrong. Maybe you lied. Maybe you didn't communicate. Maybe you said something that hurt them. And when you're just unbothered like that and think, I'm amazing, this is not going to get you anywhere. This is not who you want to be. But what you should do is you should listen to that. You should learn from the situation and move on. This is learning from the mistakes you make. This is criticizing yourself, but not completely putting yourself down and criticizing yourself to the core, hating yourself. Okay? So this is sort of a continuum. Here's the narcissist who cannot take any criticism at all. This is the winner who can take criticism but move on and identify with it. And this is the loser who completely identifies with his or her mistakes. Okay, so this is what you should be aiming for, the middle. And it's difficult, especially if these thought loops are automatic. See, when your serotonin is low and you already are convinced that you're a loser, these negative thought spirals, they come to you like this, immediately, automatic. And it's sometimes difficult to switch from having these thoughts to observing the thoughts. Sometimes you don't observe the thoughts. You think them and you feel like shit, and then after a while you realize, whoa, what am I thinking what am I thinking in my brain right now? This is irrational. This is unproductive. This is not moving me forward. But when you start to practice this more often and re-navigate your thoughts, you're going to start to notice these patterns and you're going to be able to intervene earlier. So whenever you're in such a situation, I want you to think about what would be productive to think right now. What did I do wrong? How can I fix it? And don't relate this to you as a person. Don't identify with the mistakes that you make. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And then move on. Let go. Don't forget about it. Use the information, but don't let it linger. Don't let it create this thought spiral. Don't let it turn you into a loser. Identifying with your losses will turn you into a loser. And this is what you don't want to have happen, because this low serotonin, it's just a vicious cycle, okay? You don't want to get into that. I hope that you guys could take something from this video, and I see you guys in the next video. Bye.